Hello, my name is Frank Murray. I'm a physical therapist with Industrial Motions Incorporated, and today I'm going to introduce you to an approach to material handling called Ready, Set, Lift with your head. So I'm going to show you another example over here. What we've got is a force gauge. So what this gauge tells me is the peak amount of force that's generated when I go to lift this box. So there's about 30 pounds of weight in the box, and the box weighs about 2 pounds itself. So if I take up all the slack and I pick that crate up, I'll see that there's 33 pounds of force generated when I lift that box in that manner. So now, if I walk up to that crate and I pick it up aggressively and I don't take up all that slack and I create that sudden burst, what happens is this. I take that 33.5 pounds of force and I turn it into 147 pounds of force for an instant. So the force that's generated when I yank on that box is more than about 5 times the amount of force that it actually takes to lift that box or that crate. It's that explosion of force that causes tissue overload, and that's what causes the injuries. Do you get paid to lift, push, pull, or carry objects during your day while you're at work? If the answer to that question is yes, then you are actually a professional material handler. And you have to have a process and a technique for doing your job just as any professional does. For material handling at work, that process and technique is called Ready, Set, Lift with your head. Ready, Set, Lift with your head is a process. Each part of that process has a purpose in reducing the risk of developing sprains or strains due to material handling. It also gives you a safe and effective technique for applying force to any object in any direction. Ready is taking into consideration all the external factors that lead to the safe and successful completion of that task. Set is to gain mechanical advantage by getting as close as possible to that object and to fully engage that object before you move it. And then lift with your head means that you have thought about these things, you're considering the risk factors, and you've made a good start to that material handling process, and you're also going to use the best movement pattern in order to get that job completed. One phrase that we like to use to kind of put this kind of thinking into perspective is the phrase, "Don't blame the box." A lot of times when we have injuries from material handling, we find that the injury doesn't necessarily come from the material that's being handled. A lot of times it comes from the way that the person handles the material. Just like I showed you in the example with the spool and the example with the crate. The amount of force that was generated really didn't have anything to do with the spool or the crate. That was controlled by the way that I approached it and the way that I went about that lifting technique.